Welcome to the Cantina Chatter podcast.
Turn up your nostalgia.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. I'm Victoria, your host here on the Cantina Chatter podcast, your resource for Star Wars, new and retro toys, pop culture, and randomness from the 80s and 90s. Well, Cantina denizens, it is great to be back here in the podcast. I hope your week is getting off to a good start. We have a lot to talk about in the realm of Star Wars. This is going to be a jam-packed episode. It's a long episode, but hopefully there's a little something for everybody in here, especially if you're a Star Wars fan. So we've had a lot of news lately in terms of product reveals for Star Wars Force Friday, or Triple Force Friday rather, as they're calling it. And that's going to be celebrating Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, the video game, the Mandalorian television series on Disney Plus, and Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. So new products across the entire Star Wars galaxy. And we got our first official glimpse of these products last week when the Star Wars YouTube channel did a live stream showcasing some of these new figures for the first time. Now, obviously, if you follow Star Wars toys online, you've probably seen most of these, and we're aware of even the ones we hadn't actually seen, so there wasn't really a whole lot in terms of surprises, but we did get to see some cool stuff from Hasbro and Lego and Funko, so that's always fun. And I maintain that the best parts of these reveals are when you see the cast members from the film seeing their action figures, their Funko Pops, and their Lego minifigures for the first time. I think it's always great to see how they react. I mean, because you can imagine, how would you react if you saw, your own action figure for the first time? I think it'd be pretty cool, but maybe it'd be a little weird too. In any case, as I noted, this is a long episode, so we're going to kick it off with some Star Wars television. We have our Star Wars TV correspondent, Dave, also known as Jurassic Dave 93 on social media. He's going to be talking to us a little bit about the latest in Star Wars television. So we'll have the lowdown on everything coming in the near term and kind of on the far off term as well. We'll also be speaking with my good friend and yours, Tom Chorlton, who is our Star Wars collecting correspondent, kind of going over some of these Triple Force Friday reveals. Now, I do have to note that when we recorded, they hadn't announced that they were going to be doing an official reveal for these products, so we recorded right before we saw the figures officially unveiled. Nevertheless, like I said, we already knew that most of these products were going to be on the way, so we do break them down pretty well. And then we're going to be going over to another segment featuring Erin from Toy Shelf Review, who's been on the show before. He's a longtime Star Wars collector, very knowledgeable, has an awesome YouTube channel with high production standards. It's just a great channel all the way around if you haven't already seen it. And he's very meticulous with his reviews. I also love that he does reviews from the past and the present. So it's always a great mix of modern Star Wars product from the last 24 years. We're going to be getting into what it is like to sell off your Star Wars collection. Now, it's a very daunting topic. It's a frightening topic. It's something that I think we all think about as collectors, especially those of us who have been in this game for the long haul. And, after you've amassed just so many toys and collectibles, you kind of start thinking, what am I going to do with all of this? Am I going to keep it for the rest of my life? How long can I actually go on collecting? And what's going to happen, hopefully decades, down the road when I'm not around anymore. If all this stuff is still around, who's going to take care of it? So we're going to get a little bit deep. We're going to go into a conversation with somebody who is dealing with this right now. I feel like we've kind of, danced around. And, as collectors, I think it's normal to do that because we're always living in the present, looking forward to the next toy, but we never really think like long term. Or if we do, we don't really talk about it. So that's what we're going to discuss in that segment. So stay tuned for all of that. Also, if you're following the YouTube channel, I do have a review coming this week for the Star Wars Retro Collection. I've been working on this review for a really long time. Circumstances have happened that have put it off, but finally I'm going to get it finished up and get it onto the YouTube channel this week over in Victoria's Cantina. I am cramming in all of the retro collection into this one video, so I hope you will check that out. These are very delightful, and I like them quite a bit. I've also got a new Rise of Skywalker review coming very soon that will feature a 6-inch figure from the Black Series line, so I hope you'll stay tuned for that. And if you're not following over on Instagram, of course, that's where we do the bulk of our toy photography. Star Wars, Jurassic Park, dinosaurs, some DC, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We love it all here on the Cantina Chatter podcast, and we're eager to photograph all manner of toys. So please follow at Victoria's Cantina if you're not following there. I've also been really active on Twitter lately. Like, if you're not following me on Twitter and you want to kind of get into my mindset, I think you can get into my mindset a little bit more on Twitter than anywhere else, because I feel like, I don't know, it could just be me, but I use Instagram mostly for the toy photos, and then Facebook, I just kind of use that for updates, new video, new podcast episode, things like that. But on Twitter, I kind of break down my thought process, I think, a little bit more, and I don't know, it just seems like more of a platform to be vocal about things. Also got a new article coming for collectjurassic.com that should be dropping pretty soon. And as always, I'm working behind the scenes on lots of other content. Now, I do need to shout out my friend Jamie Stangroom. He was on Cantina Chatter about a year ago, and we had a great talk discussing what he was working on at the time, The Empire Strikes Door. It's his documentary that's been years in the making, in which Jamie has made it his quest to identify the stormtrooper who banged his head in Star Wars A New Hope. Now, when Jamie was on the show, we talked a little bit about the process and what that's been like for him working on this documentary. And we also discussed his really engaging, really intriguing interviews that he conducts with people from the Star Wars universe. You can find that all on his channel, Jamie Stangroom. I will throw a link in the show notes so you can check out his channel. And be sure to watch The Empire Strikes Door. It's about a 40-minute documentary, completely worth your time. If you don't come out of watching that entertained and laughing, then there might just be something wrong with you. It's really well put together. I think this is some of the best Star Wars fan content I've seen this year. This is the kind of Star Wars content I live for. It's a truly engaging documentary, and it's fun. And I think we oftentimes lose sight as fans of the fun factor and why we fell in love with things in the first place. And this documentary really brings out the fun aspect of Star Wars fandom, and it actually results in something pretty meaningful. So please check it out, and maybe, just maybe, Victoria's Cantina makes a cameo in there somewhere. So give it a look. Let me know what you think after you watch it. And now, let's get on with the show. Okay, so in recent months, there's been a lot of news in the world of Star Wars television, a lot of stuff in the pipeline. So we have our TV Star Wars correspondent, Jurassic Dave 93, with us today to tell us about what's going on. Hey Dave, how's it going?
Good, Victoria. How you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Excited to talk some Star Wars TV. It's been a while since we've done that. So, there's a lot of projects coming up. So, why don't you fill us in on some of these great projects that a lot of us are really looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this year, everything that's coming with the television series, and we get to see something different we've never really seen live-action Star Wars before. We got a lot of reveals, I guess, from the D23 last month. I guess the biggest one to come out of that was the return of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is one that a lot of us have been clamoring for, and it's one of those things that fans on all sides have been, united in asking,
Yes.
for Obi-Wan, where's he been, during this 19-year gap between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. And obviously he did pop up in Rebels for a little while. But not nearly as long as we would like to see. So it's really cool that he's on the horizon.
Yeah, I was really hoping for the movie. There were rumors it was going to be announced last year, but we're getting a TV show. It's going to be longer than an actual movie, so we'll get to spend more time with the character.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that Ewan McGregor is coming back after all this time, it's for me, that's like the real draw. I mean, he's amazing in anything that he's in. So
real highlight of the prequels, and it would be great to see him again.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we don't know a whole lot of it. Actually, Ewan McGregor just came up on stage and talked with Kathleen Kennedy and had him. He had her ask if he was going to be playing Obi-Wan Kenobi again, and of course the answer is yes. That's what we're talking about. We don't really know a whole lot. There's no official title. We do know it will begin filming next year in 2020, and no premiere date on the Disney Plus app yet.
As with anything Disney Star Wars, they're probably going to be pretty tight-lipped about it. We might get little snippets of information here and there, I assume, but for the most part, we're probably going to...
really the only thing I was able to find was it's going to be taking place about 8 years after Revenge of the Sith, so that's where we'll catch up with Obi-Wan.
Nice. So it's right in that time frame, between in Solo, right?
Yes.
Nice. So that'll be interesting to see. I know a few people have suggested it the possibility, or at least theorized that maybe there will be some connections there with various characters from Solo. Personally, I think that would be awesome.
Yes, definitely. I'd like to see what he's up to and spending his time on Tatooine. I'd like to see if he stayed there the whole time, if he ever went off-world. Really like to see if he ever met up with Darth Vader again. We get those lines in the original trilogy. He's more more machine than man now. And my favorite is in Return of the Jedi when Vader says that Obi-Wan once thought as you did to Luke. I'd like to see, does that have something to do with what Kenobi was up to? Do they meet again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. I never really considered that. I've always assumed that, they didn't meet up until... A New Hope, but who knows? I mean, they could obviously retcon, what we know. So especially with that big gap.
Obviously Vader's a big draw, and probably get a lot of eyes on if Kenobi isn't enough, to get a lot of eyes on the streaming service and watch the series.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be a huge success. Obviously, they have a lot more on the way, a little bit sooner than Kenobi. So what else can we expect in the near term?
Actually, when the streaming service launches, Disney Plus will launch on November 12th, and The Mandalorian first episode will be available to stream on the very first day.
Nice. Yeah, The Mandalorian is looking fabulous. Like that last trailer they released during D23, that had me super stoked for this.
Yes. Yeah, I watched the trailer. Real positive reactions from me. I think positive all around. I really liked the way it looked cinematically. It looked like it fit right in there with maybe the Rogue One movie, the way it was shot. A lot of, callbacks to original trilogy stuff, even though it's just set after Return of the Jedi. It was just really neat how they captured a real Star Wars feel. We're looking to see, I guess, on the small screen now.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. And just everything about it. I mean, we don't know a whole lot. We've seen a good little bit of the different designs and stuff that they're working with, but we don't really know a whole lot about the plot. So I think that's really exciting. Yeah,
far as I can gather, it's just going to be showing like a lawless time and the days after the fall of the Empire, the early days of the New Republic, and the Mandalorian is a bounty hunter, taking the law into his own hands. And it's cool. We get to see in the trailer maybe some cells left from the Empire. You get some shots of Imperial stormtroopers, which I love to see. You see some stuff that ties into Rogue One, like Death Troopers. Lots of original trilogy looking aliens. You see AT-ST walkers. It looks really good.
Nice. Yeah, everything about it looks really cool. And I'm especially intrigued with IG-11. I just think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. It's amazing what they can do with the technology now. You see IG-88 and Empire Strikes Back, and seeing IG-11 in that trailer, it was like, whoa.
Oh, I know, right? Yeah. IG-88 just kind of standing there with his head going back and forth. But yeah, this is quite a leap. It's intriguing to even think that IG-88, maybe he was like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, really exciting stuff.
Let's see, and what else was revealed at D23? Actually, you're seeing the return of the Clone Wars for its 7th season.
Yeah, this has been one that people have been excited about, because I think they announced it a year ago, I want to say.
Yeah, I think it was around time of San Diego Comic-Con last year, I think.
Okay.
If I remember right.
Yeah, yeah. And for a long time, people have said, well, the Clone Wars never really got a proper ending to the television series. They did on it in comic books, and but not really in TV. We got the Lost Missions, and that was great. I was a huge fan of those episodes, but I never really got capped off. So it'll be interesting to see if that's what they're aiming to do with this, or if they're maybe even going to expand on it again with a different series, with another season. But in any case, it's great to have Clone Wars back on TV once again.
Yes, definitely. I get to see some things tied up, seeing what Ahsoka's been up to, what Anakin and Obi-Wan have been up to. I'm very excited for the return. Yeah,
and it seems like Darth Maul is going to play a pretty big role in this season as well.
Yeah, last we saw him, I guess Palpatine had taken him somewhere, and we'll get to see what he was up to, maybe fill in a little bit of the backstory between Clone Wars and Rebels, see what he's up to. Maybe some ties in to Solo. We'll see.
I think the last time we saw him was when Palpatine was blasting him at lightning, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it definitely will be interesting to see what came after that, because it's going to be very intriguing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm stoked about that, and having Ahsoka back, Clone Wars Ahsoka, that's really exciting for me too.
Yes, definitely. I want to see how she aged and matured after she left the Order, how she gets to be where she is, how maybe she might tie into some sort of the early rebellion as we see her as the Fulcrum later on in Rebels. But yeah, I was very interested. That is one of the best characters to come out of Clone Wars, and very excited to see where she goes.
Yeah, totally. Because when you see her in Clone Wars, then you see her, years later in Rebels. I mean, she's a totally different character.
Yes.
And I'm curious to learn more about, how she got there. I know we had the book, and that gave us some information, but I kind of want to see the earlier, aspects of that, how she, went from being Ahsoka to being Fulcrum, because it's a huge difference in character.
Yes. I'd really like to see Anakin. I always felt there was a little bit of a disconnect from, I really, really like the Clone Wars portrayal of Anakin, and it's just a little bit different than you get to see in the movies, and I'd like to see maybe what leads him up to where we see him at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, more of his thought process, his inevitable fall to the dark side and everything. Another great character I'm looking forward to see more from.
Absolutely. They've built on Anakin's character from Revenge of the Sith was 2005. Obviously, Clone Wars didn't begin until 2008. Yes. And we got a lot of character development and background on Anakin's part during the Clone Wars, and they can continue to expand on that. So, I'm really curious as to what they're going to do that. Like you said, maybe we'll see more of his path to the dark side. Like maybe there's other elements that we haven't become aware of yet that we're going to see. So, that's going to be interesting.
Yep. And there's not a whole lot more information other than the short trailer that we got from that. And it'll be returning sometime in 2020.
2020. Did they say February?
Yes, they did.
February. Nice. So, yeah, a little bit away, but not terribly long.
Yep.
Yeah, very exciting. And what's the latest on the Cassian Andor series that's been in development?
Lucasfilm's pretty tight-lipped on what's going on with the Cassian Andor. There was a panel at the D23 with Diego Luna and Alec Tunick. Pretty much only know what they said, that it was going to be a spy series based on Rogue One. That's really all we have to go off of. So anything else we're going to be talking about is going to be speculation on what this might be.
Yeah, that's interesting. And this is a series that I think a lot of people thought maybe kind of came out of left field, because obviously a lot of people like Rogue One, and it does play quite heavy on the original trilogy nostalgia. And it's definitely rooted in that cinematic sort of universe of the OT. So it is interesting, though, because I wouldn't have anticipated myself, Cassian Andor series. But obviously Disney thinks highly enough of the character. Lucasfilm wants to continue pursuing it and, build out Cassian's background, which we really don't know a whole lot about him. And we only, going off of Rogue One, we only really know what he told us. Saying that he's been in the fight since he was 6 years old. So, maybe we'll get a little bit of that and see, how he made his way through into the rebellion and, became who he was in Rogue One.
Yeah, I'd like to see maybe if they're going to do it in flashback form, see how he got to be where he is now. I'd like to see how he meets up with K2SO. Obviously, he was an Imperial droid. What did he do? Did he turn him? You can speculate on and on, but really like the character, and I like the idea of it being a spy series, because that was some of the coolest parts in Rogue One, when he was sort of sneaking around, in the alleys in the beginning, and we know he's a skilled sniper. It'll be really cool.
Yeah, totally. Maybe we'll get to see more of his military background and his training, and and again, maybe that interconnectivity with other films from the Star Wars universe, like Solo, or even the Obi-Wan series that's in development.
Yeah, and I like the way they're doing it. It's sort of, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, except it's not really chronological, and they can go back and they can tie anything at all that they want. And the luxury that they have with these television series, we get to spend more time with the characters. We could tie into any time period, any characters, the sky's the limit. Yeah,
so it's all Star Wars. Obviously, we're excited about it, no matter what, especially when it's, in the form of a movie or a TV show where we get to really like delve into that universe and see things. So, yeah, there's a lot of good stuff on the horizon. And I think Resistance wrapped up, I forget what month it was, this past spring.
Yep. I don't remember either, but it was the past spring. Yep.
We got like one wave of the figures, and that was kind of that. Yeah. And so season 2, and it's also the final season, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess that was a surprise. It was dropped on us in the trailer that the second season would be the final season. The show, for me personally, was a little bit rough get going, but I did get into it by the end of season 1, and I was kind of a little disappointed to find out this would be the final season.
Right. Do we know when it begins?
It begins this fall. I'm not sure of the exact date, but it's going to continue to air on the Disney XD channel. And I think they're going to bury it like they've been late at night on Saturday nights. But, seeing the trailer, I'm really excited to see how the Colossus is now off world, and you'll get to see it out in space and space battles and everything. I'm real excited to see where Kaz goes. I like the arc that they have set up with Tam and how now she's part of the First Order. Looks like we're going to get to see a lot of the crew and the group together, all on adventures together, because they were kind of separated back and forth in the first season. I'm not really positive. Maybe you heard something. This goes a little bit past the end of Force Awakens and maybe into a little bit of the start of The Last Jedi. Excited to see where that goes in the timeline. We got to see Kylo Ren in the trailer. Looks like he had some interactions with Tam, and just see where that goes.
Yeah.
And a lot of the Resistance fighting looked great in the trailer. A lot of space battles flying around, X-Wings. It looked exciting, and I'm excited to see how it wraps up.
Yeah, and I could have agreed with you. It kind of started off season 1 a little bit rocky, and over the course of the season, I grew to enjoy it more, especially when they kind of reached that point of it running alongside The Force Awakens, and seeing like General Hux and Phasma and all that happening, blowing up the Hosnian system. But what I'm really excited about with season 2 is seeing exactly how far it goes into The Last Jedi, because there are some stuff about that story, and we get little hints of it at the end of the movie, where the kids are playing with like the Luke Skywalker doll, and so it's like, how did they know about that? Was that whole thing with Luke in the First Order and Kylo broadcast somehow? Did people see it around the galaxy, and that's how they became inspired to perhaps join the Resistance? So it'll be interesting to see if they go into that territory and how they approach it.
Now that you mention it, just a theory I'm coming up on the spot here. It'd be interesting, like you said, if they broadcast it and maybe somehow Luke Skywalker inspires Kaz and the crew, to fight harder for the Resistance or something. It becomes more legendary, and that would be a neat tie-in.
Yeah, I think it would be cool, and if we see like that whole core crew, maybe Tam comes back. Maybe she doesn't, but also like the pirates and everybody else, join with the Resistance after by the end of all of that. It'll be interesting.
I think that pretty much covers everything we've got for now, unless I missed something, but I'm not sure. But yeah,
I think that pretty much seems like it covers it as far as I've been able to tell. But Yeah, awesome update, Dave. Thanks so much for filling us in on the latest in Star Wars television. And where can people go to follow you online?
You can give me a follow on Instagram or Twitter, Jurassic Dave 93, and talk about anything Star Wars. Just have a conversation. I'm happy to talk to anyone.
Very cool. Well, Dave, thanks again for filling us in. And here's looking forward to all the latest in Star Wars TV. And at what point we'll have to come back and talk about it a little bit more in depth.
Well, thank you for having me on, Victoria. It was a lot of fun.
All right, so now let's venture into the world of Star Wars collecting. One of the things that we do fairly often here on the show, obviously. We love our toys, and Tom Chorlton loves his toys. So, Tom, how's it going, sir?
Oh, it's going all right. I'm looking forward to Force Friday a little bit.
Force Friday, yeah, all those hidden surprises that we're not going to know about until Force Friday.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Like, why didn't they just reveal those things at a big event? Like, I don't know, San Diego Comic-Con. I mean, I love going to Yak Face and finding out all the stuff, but, they could have just, shown it at the convention last month.
Yeah, they do. They run into this problem every year, and they never seem to learn, or they don't care.
Yeah.
It's really frustrating because, Comic-Con or D23, I mean, those are perfect outlets to reveal all this stuff ahead of time. Mm-hmm. This stuff gets leaked out every single time they have a major film release, and they don't learn from it. They just keep doing it, and it makes zero sense this day and age to do that, because stuff is going to leak. It's inevitable. People are going to see these things before they're ready to properly announce them. So wouldn't you want to get in front of that and kind of make sure people have the best photos and the most correct information before it starts leaking out?
Yeah, I don't understand the motivation behind it at all, except that I'd heard the possibility, or I've read the possibility, that they give out exclusive reveal stuff to like Entertainment Weekly or something like that. So
those toy experts over there at Entertainment Weekly.
Yeah, well, they pay them more money than us.
Yeah, they cast a wide net.
Yeah,
so that's understandable.
Yeah,
and then the rest of us will just pick up the crumbs and spread that out. So.
Right. Yeah, and actually get people excited. Hopefully.
Yeah. So there's been some leaks lately. For Black Series 6-inch and Vintage Collection for The Rise of Skywalker. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what's been coming out in terms of Black Series and as far as those images that we've been seeing lately.
Well, yeah, I think it was Yak Face, right? Posted up, and it was through an Instagram person, like a Kylo Collector, I think.
Kylo
Collector, yeah. Found the 8 images of the new characters, or the new figures that are being released, and I'm on the lower side of lukewarm about it, because it's Rey again, Kylo Ren again, a Jawa again, a First Order Stormtrooper again, and then we get Guy from Video Game, which video game people are probably pretty excited about, so that's cool. We'll get one of the Inquisitors, the Red Stormtrooper, the Sith Stormtrooper, and someone I'm totally forgetting.
Mandalorian.
The Mandalorian.
The Mandalorian, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to find that article. They've been posting a lot because there's been a lot of...
I think we know what we're getting on Force Friday at this point.
Yeah. I think we do, especially if 5POA is gone.
Yep.
The way the Dodo Bird, which it sounds that it is.
Mixed feelings about that.
Yeah, mixed feelings about that.
If they keep the vintage collection coming at like even steady drips like this, I'll be happier with that than a bunch of 5POA stuff. But
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean they improved the 5POA range towards the end, but mostly with like aliens and stuff.
Yeah, that's I don't think we're gonna get to see any of those weird background characters anymore. I think my desire to have Therm Scissor Punch and the other crazy characters from Solo in a little diorama 3.75 size. I think that's a dream I got to put aside. The way of the world, right? Play Fortnite.
Yeah, I know those 5POA figures they were doing back in like 2015, in 2013 and 14. A lot of people complained about them, and they honestly weren't that great. But one thing they did do that I thought was pretty cool is they did a pretty nice tribute to the vintage figures. When they were $5 a figure and they weren't like $8 a figure, in a garden accessory.
They were they were never $5 a figure here in New York. They started off at like $7. And as soon as Force Awakens came out, it was 8 or 9. So it's like, what?
Let's talk a little bit about these particular figures. So, okay, Rey is an essential. I mean, we know that there was going to be a Rey, and this Rey looks good from what I can tell from that photo.
Yeah, that the photo that I just saw and you just told me about off the recording there, I was pretty startled with how good that looked. So whereas I originally thought I might wait a little while on that one, nah, I'm buying that first day.
I thought that the Island Journey Rey was good. This looks even better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really does. It looks like a perfect Rey figure. So I'm really excited to get that, and then that one and Island Journey will be my Rey figures, and awesome. Yeah, it just looks amazing.
I'm sure a lot of people will be swapping heads with those.
Yeah, I tried to do that with the Island Journey one. That didn't work. The skin tone colors just didn't work at all. So I don't know if that'll work as well with the Force Awakens Rey and this Rise of Skywalker Rey. Certainly we'll give it a shot, though.
Yeah. And she comes with D.O., who is the new droid that people seem to be indifferent about.
Oh, I think he's cute.
I guess that remains to be seen. Right now, he just looks like a wheel with a megaphone.
Yeah. Hopefully he's cute. Hopefully he's like a little puppy or something like that scoots around after BB-8.
Yeah. But Rey looks good. I like this outfit quite a bit. I think that it looks, more striking than her previous outfits.
Mm-hmm.
And we got Kylo Ren. We knew that there would be, the villain in this wave. He's there.
You've got to release him, but he's, as far as I'm concerned, he's the same as we got last time. I know there's differences. There are differences. He's going to have a little cracked helmet, right?
He's got a cracked helmet. It looks like it might be the Last Jedi Kylo. Yes, with the cracked helmet. I'm not sure if the cape is the same from the Last Jedi or not. It looks like maybe. Mm-hmm. And then he looks like he has like a sculpted hood on the side. I'm
excited about the sculpted hood.
Isn't that sad that that's the most exciting thing about the figure?
But yeah, sculpted hood on Kylo Ren, that's cool. And I understand why you have to re-release him again. He's the bad guy again. But when you're releasing 8 figures, 4 of them are not very new. You can still buy them all on Amazon right now. It's not like back when I was a kid and, you got to release Darth Vader again with the Return of the Jedi figures because maybe the kids didn't get Darth Vader because the last big release was 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. They might not even be in the stores. Now it's go to Amazon. He's $5.
Yeah, even with the prequel trilogy, it was every 3 years.
Yeah, mm-hmm. And even then, that was another example where, like, all right, they've got another Darth Maul every time, but the rest of the stuff
he's dead.
Yeah, and it was all pretty easy to get somewhere.
Right.
The internet has made it just kind of a different market.
Totally. So we also have, let's see, from Rise of Skywalker, there's a First Order Stormtrooper. Mm-hmm. And this is one that I just don't understand. I mean, I appreciate that he has the additional accessories that the Amazon exclusive had. No, wait, Target exclusive had. The one that came with Poe Dameron.
Right, yeah.
But...
Did they fix his elbows?
These are no, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Probably not. But these are still $10 on Amazon.
Exactly.
So it's like...
Yeah.
Like... Okay, Sith Trooper, fine. That makes sense.
Sure.
But Stormtrooper, ugh.
Yeah.
That's a wasted slot right there.
He's $10. He's, I don't even think that even if they fix the elbows, and I'd like one with fixed elbows, but I don't think that's worth the slot here. That's,
right.
All right. Yeah. He's on Amazon. You can get him for $10. I think. I haven't checked recently, but that's my guess.
Yeah. Well, I know. I did check like the other day. They were $10.
Yeah.
The one, just the single pack, Stormtrooper with the gun was $10.
Yeah. And a Jawa.
So we also have
the Jawa. How much is the Jawa? I bought a Jawa. Probably
not that much, but this is an off-world Jawa.
He's got red eyes, right?
He's got red eyes. He's also got a soft goods cloak, which is different. It looks a little bit more brown to me than purplish. So I don't know if that's just the photo or if it does have like a different color cloak, but either way, it's weird.
Yeah.
And this is from The Mandalorian, correct?
It's either The Mandalorian or the video game. I'm not certain which one that's from.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So we also have, Sith Trooper.
Yep.
We knew that this one was coming. I mean, he debuted it at Comic-Con with a bunch more accessories for an upcharge. So we knew he was going to be in this wave as well. There is the Mandalorian himself, which
looks great.
He looks great. My understanding is that the Mandalorian kind of goes through like visually like an aesthetic transformation over the course of the season.
Sure.
So it looks like they're starting from the very beginning with this one because he doesn't look as cool as he does in the promo photos.
It's almost like he's designed so that they can release different action figures of him throughout the year, right?
Yeah, which they're definitely going to do.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm a sucker for that. It's Boba Fett the series anyway, right? Just he's totally not Boba Fett. It's the Mandalorian. Right. It's totally not Tatooine. It's Jakku.
And we also have, am I saying it right? Cal Kestis?
I guess so. The guy from the video game.
The guy from the video game, yeah, with the really long lightsaber hilt.
I'm as excited about him as I was for Dash Rendar.
When I was a kid, seeing those Shadows of the Empires on the pegs, I was like, who the heck is this? I had no interest in those figures because I had no idea who they were.
Yeah, I got the whole set of them. Because I was like a teenager at the time, so I was sort of excited to be collecting Star Wars figures again. And I was going to pay my way through college by keeping them all on the card.
Oh,
yeah.
It wasn't.
Well, that didn't work out great. But it was exciting getting new characters, but I read Shadows of the Empire and I read like the comic adaptation as well. And it just didn't do it for me.
And then there is the second sister who is also from the video game.
Take my money.
This one looks really cool.
Yep.
Anybody that was a fan of Star Wars Rebels, basically what was it the seventh sister or?
But Darth Buffy. I called her Darth Buffy. I don't remember what the character's name was. I didn't think she was quite as entertaining as I'd hoped she would be. But I was still delighted that it was Sarah Michelle Gellar being a bad guy in Star Wars.
Yeah, people are hypothesizing that this may be Barriss from Clone Wars.
I mean, that would be neat. I don't know. That certainly seemed like a direction that Barriss would have gone. But the figure looks really cool, and I love those, evil masked bad guys. So
yeah.
I'm,
who doesn't?
I'm totally sold on that one, even if, I'm probably not going to play the video game. I'm not much of a video game guy.
So what's interesting about this one, too, is that Yakface posted a photo of, like, a carbon fiber decoed version of this figure as well.
Right, yeah. So what is that? Is that just a exclusive to a different store? GameStop, was it?
It sounds like it might be one that is packed, bundled with the game.
Huh.
If I understood the article correctly. That's what they think it is, that it might be the one that's bundled with the video game.
Well, oh dear.
Which I'm going to buy the game, so if I'm going to buy the game, I may as well get the bundle, I guess.
You should absolutely do that, yeah. And then let me know if you think it's worthwhile to do that. Maybe I'll just wait on getting the figure.
I mean, who doesn't need a carbon fiber second sister?
Yeah, sure, right? Why not? I've got a white Boba Fett. Remember that?
I got a red Darth Vader.
Wait, you have a red Darth Vader? Oh,
yeah,
the
Christmas
one. That's right. Oh my God, good for you. I'm glad you've got that. That's super cool.
And they made a white one too.
Yes. Oh gosh.
Yeah. And I also have a multicolored one in the retro collection.
Oh yeah, I've not watched the review on that yet because honestly, that's one that just doesn't appeal to me. How do you feel about it?
Oh man, I love it.
Really?
At first I was like, why? And what is this? But once I actually got it in hand, and I got a few of them.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to see what I would get, and each one was different.
Really?
There's apparently like dozens of variations of possible combinations. So every figure, it's kind of like one of those mystery boxes. You don't know what you're going to get when it shows up.
Oh, geez.
And I love it. I mean, I really wanted a blue helmet and a blue lightsaber. Guess what I got?
That, I hope.
That's exactly what I got. That's the one I opened, yes. And then I have one hanging on the wall as well.
Oh my God. Okay. All right, so shoot, that's a bummer for me because I was pretty content to not buy that, but I get the feeling
they're still going in and out of stock on Target as of today.
Mm-hmm.
So you might still have a chance if you want one.
I might have to pull the trigger on that. It's sort of like the darned retro collection figures when they came out. I was like, I don't have a need for these. And then the day that they were released, I was like, I think I'm going to travel an hour over to Target and buy them all. And now I'm really excited to have them. So
yeah, and you lucked out, and I had to order mine on Entertainment Earth, which also sold out like within a day.
Right,
so,
right, yeah.
Yeah, glad I ordered mine. That's my next review. I got to edit it. It's been shot I started shooting it like 3 weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
And that's just how it goes. And I got sick, so
that's right.
The day that I shot, like the inbox portion of the review, that evening I got sick, so I wasn't able to finish it.
Mm-hmm. That's awful.
And 3 weeks later, I finally got around to finishing shooting the video. So
oh jeez,
that's not my record. Though my record's like 2 years or something.
that's still quicker than it takes me to finish a video on projects I work on. So vintage collection. Or do we finish the Black Series? We finished those, right?
Yeah, I think we did. Let's talk Vintage Collection because, I don't know, between Vintage Collection and Black Series in this case, I feel like I'm a little more excited about Vintage Collection.
Yeah, me too. I looked at one of the sets of photos Yakface posted up, and at first I was kind of like, I don't know who Zori Bliss is. Is she Ray's mom? Boy, I hope so. I don't know who Red Flying Stormtrooper is. Are they going to actually be in the movie? Or are they just going to sort of be like Mud Troopers and Solo? Like, do I care?
Yeah, right.
Do I need another Poe Dameron? Oh, it's Rey again? Yes, I want all of them. I looked at the pictures. They look great. I'm even going to buy Poe Dameron because he says Rise of Skywalker on the package. I'm sold. Right. I'm sold on every one of these. And the Knight of Ren.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they look awesome. And, I've been... I kind of blame you on rubbing this off on me, but I've been buying them too to keep carded, so I have to buy 2 of each.
I know. I'm sorry about that. Yeah. It's terrible. It's a terrible habit to get into.
It is, but yeah, I mean, I've said it before, but Vintage Collection are essentially like little art pieces.
Yeah.
You get your figure, you get a beautiful vintage style card back, and they look amazing on the wall.
Yep.
They absolutely do. So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The memories of the old toy aisles when all the figures were lined up and you could just browse through them for like a half an hour all comes back with the Vintage Collection stuff. That's what it reminds me of, and that's sort of what my impetus is to keeping some of them on card. I want a few from each movie. Doesn't have to be all of them, just a few from each movie, so that one day I'm going to have little pegs somewhere in a basement or something like that. Set them all up
Your
in
own
there.
little toy store.
Yeah, my own creepy little basement toy store.
So for Vintage Collection, you mentioned Zori Bliss. Yeah, it's a really cool looking design. Card back looks awesome, and they also tweaked the font on these a little bit for the name hills.
Oh, cool. That's neat.
Yeah. So I know some collectors had noticed that the more recent Vintage Collection had the incorrect font, and I think even the Vintage Collection, like before it went on hiatus, had this issue as well.
Oh wow!
But they actually fixed the font. I think it's like avant-garde, and now it's like it matches like the proper, like if you look at the Retro Collection, for example, like it matches those figures.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's great. Good for
just
whoever
little touches like that.
Good for whoever took them to task for that.
Yeah, and just little touches like that, but they go a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So Poe Dameron is listed as a Rise of Skywalker figure. It looks like the same one we had in 3 3/4-inch Black Series, but now he's got photoreal.
Right. The photoreal on that's on the small ones is I don't find it to be that big of a difference. Maybe that's just because I'm old and my eyesight's not good. But like I've got my crate Luke, one of my half dozen of him due to my shenanigans with my Amazon shipping on that one. Where to anyone listening, I got it in a soft package, and when I used the scissors to open up the soft package, I cut the card back off the really good one. So now I've got an extra crate Luke around if anyone wants one. But nice. The printed stuff, it's all right. But
yeah.
It's it's no complaints about it. No complaints about it. It's just not like the Black Series where it looks like they took Daisy Ridley and stuck her into a little plastic package. I was like, oh my god, that's Daisy Ridley figure.
Yeah, that's true. It didn't sell all that well before. I mean, now it's got the photo reel, which, but like you said, it's really hit or miss on these 3 3/4 inch figures.
Yeah.
It seems like they've got it down pretty well on 6 inch, but for 3 3/4, maybe they'll be better on these Rise of Skywalker figures. But from what we've seen so far, they can be hit or miss.
Yeah, I'd still call them good. They're still good. I just don't know if they're the dramatic improvement that the 6 inch ones were.
Right.
But I think I will buy... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think I will buy the Poe Dameron so that I've got a carded Poe Dameron now because he's part of a different movie title. Line,
Yeah. And it's the first vintage style Poe Dameron.
Right.
So. So we also have the Sith Jet Trooper. Like you said, is this one that's actually going to do anything, or is he just going to be like in the background, like you barely see him?
Like flame troopers from The Force Awakens. That's my worry about Zori Bliss too. Is she just Zam Wessel? Like, well,
she looks like Zam Wessel.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit, right?
She looks like a mixture of Zam Wessel and Daft Punk.
Yeah, you know what I bet happens. I bet she's the best bounty hunter in the galaxy. And the cloners, they cloned her, and that's where Rey came from.
Yeah, those pesky clones can't get away from
Yeah, it's the pesky clones again. Yeah, but I mean, the figure looks just really cool, so I'm like, well, I'm going to buy that.
It does.
And so does the stupid Knight of Ren.
Okay. Yeah, so this one's interesting because we know there's I don't know how many Knights of Ren there are, but there's several Knights of Ren. It's like, which Knight of Ren is this? It's just like, all the package says is Knight of Ren. Does that mean they're going to make the rest of them? I mean, based on their track record with the Praetorian Guards, probably not.
Yeah, that would be a bummer. I'm in the camp that was never that interested in the Knights of Ren. I thought it was a cool bit of flavor that was thrown into The Force Awakens. I was like, oh, cool, he's the Master of the Knights of Ren. That's kind of neat. But I was never like, we need to see them in the next movie. So I've not been exactly chomping at the bit for Knights of Ren. And looking at the pictures of the designs, I'm just sort of like, okay. They sort of look like rejected versions of Kylo Ren designs. But the figure looks so cool.
It does.
And that's half of my love of Star Wars is all the darn toys anyway. So it's like, if you sell me a cool figure, great. That's Darth Maul, right?
Yeah. It felt like it was such a throwaway line, wasn't it? Like, Master of the Knights of Ren.
Yeah. It's like your father and I fought in the Clone Wars together. Okay.
Yeah, it's...
It's that.
But no, I agree, though. The figure looks cool. And then we have X-Wing Pilot Luke, which I think this is a repack of the one that just came out in that Comic-Con set of Luke's, the Destiny set.
Yeah,
And which was an awesome figure. Like, I love all 3 of those Lukes are amazing. Did you ever get your hands on one of those sets?
No, I'm good on my 3 3/4 Lukes, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
These are great. And I know you say you can't see the difference between them, but I mean,
I probably it's like the Stormtrooper. You did your review of the Rogue One Stormtrooper, right? And I poo-pooed you on that. And then you show me them next to each other, and I was like, oh my god, that really does stand out. Just for me, like, I've got enough Lukes at this point that the difference there is not going to stand out to me for what's important for my current collecting habits.
Gotcha. Okay, and then so I think that rounds out that first wave of vintage collection for fall, for Force Friday.
Awesome.
And I'm hoping that this kind of resolves the issue of Snoke and Jyn Erso's clogging up pegs everywhere.
Oh gosh, yeah, what a disappointment.
Because I don't think Walmart or Target have gotten a single 2019 wave in stock.
No.
Anywhere in the U.S.
No,
it's sad.
I've anytime I've gone to one of those stores, and I live in New York City, so we don't have Walmarts here. But anytime I get to go to a Walmart, I go, and it's just that, if anything.
Yeah.
It's very disappointing.
It's really disappointing. I mean, especially considering that they've made some of their best figures this year.
Oh yeah,
you know?
Young Lando, and Fist Nest, Yak Face.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like
it's really incredible.
It's unfortunate. It is, and then there's also Luke in ceremonial outfit.
Right.
It seems like this one is possibly going to be a Walmart exclusive. The worst part about it is that, I mean, if you could get it in stores, that's fine.
Yeah.
But like the Mud Trooper, I wasn't able to get that in stores because I don't think stores really, I mean, around here they never got it.
Okay, so let me just tell you this. When I went to South Carolina to visit my parents back in like March or April, we went around to some Walmarts there, right? Because I loved going to Walmart to see what they've got. And they had racks and racks of the stupid Mud Trooper at that point. I'd already bought mine from like, I think Entertainment Earth, because I was like, oh no, it's going to be rare and impossible to get. And it was like, no, they had like 30 of them. It's the only thing they had. It was like, what? It's so weird. It's so peculiar.
Yeah,
it's like Target with the Han Solo Stormtrooper, right?
Right.
Like, you can't give that away.
Yeah. Well, I only saw it once, to be fair.
Oh, really?
Maybe that's just my area.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe you've got cool people
I know a lot
in that
of
area.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have found those on clearance. I never did. I would have bought more, but
Oh,
I never did. But yeah, so yeah, Walmart. I don't know if you saw, but I just got a Mud Trooper from them maybe a few weeks ago, and they put tape on it.
Yeah.
And you don't ship vintage collection figures with tape on them.
Yeah.
There was nothing in the box to protect it. It was all messed up. And I returned it to the store. It was just my quest to get, a close to mint Mud Trooper for the wall is ongoing.
Yeah, I did see that when you posted that, and that's when I was thinking about those racks of them that I saw, and I was really bummed out because I was like, maybe I should get some extras of these just in case, and I did not. Hopefully you'll be able to get one still.
Yeah, but that ceremonial look looks amazing on the card.
It really does. It really does.
I'm probably more excited for this than any other vintage collection figure.
Oh, really? Oh, well, that's fun. Well, I mean, you know who the character is. You don't know who Zori Bliss is. And you don't even know if Red Flying Stormtrooper is going to be in the movie.
I don't even know who Rey is.
We don't know who she is because we don't know who her parents are.
She's nobody.
Her parents are Boba Fett and Snoke. And
Snoke. Her parents are.
And Snoke is.
Parents are. And
Snoke is Max Rebo, reborn. Yeah.
I was gonna say Jar Jar was her father.
That would be amazing. I would love that. Where's my 6-inch Jar Jar? It's all connected. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. 6-inch Jar Jar. I knew you were gonna throw that in there.
I want that so much. I want it so much. I can't believe how badly I want 6-inch Jar Jar at this point.
I know. So we've also been seeing some leaks from Canada where they're getting these new 5-inch scale Galaxy of Adventures figures, but it also looks like they're doing the Rise of Skywalker in 5-inch.
Great. Are you excited for these?
No.
No, me neither. Is this a good idea?
No. What, guys? It boggles my mind sometimes. All right, so the last thing that I want to touch on here is this week, Hasbro Pulse put up for sale the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Star Wars figures.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
Yeah, it always goes off without a hitch.
Yeah,
every year.
Did you pay for your subscription to Hasbro Pulse, or did you get in because you'd ordered during a Toy Fair like I did? Yeah, I did the same thing. Okay. And honestly, I don't see why anybody would not do that, because, I mean, what did you have to lose? All you had to do was pre-order something that was months out, and you got in on it. Yeah. So, no, I absolutely did that as soon as I could. Yeah. And, so, I mean, it was free, sure, but here's the thing. And, I mean, I was there at San Diego Comic-Con, obviously. Yeah. People think that convention exclusives, all you have to do is show up to the convention, you can get it, and that's obviously never been the case. I tried to get in line to the Hasbro booth to buy these exclusives early in the morning, like very shortly after the convention opened. Mm-hmm. The line was capped off. They had an overflow line. I couldn't get into the overflow line because that was capped off. So you walk by there and they're like, keep moving, you can't stop, you keep moving. And then you keep going back. And I mean, here's the thing. When you're at a convention like this, it is so tightly packed that it takes like 10 minutes to walk like 50 yards. Mm-hmm. So when they say keep walking and come back around, that can take like 20 minutes to do. Mm-hmm. So every time I passed by the overflow line, it was capped off because they weren't taking more people in it.
finally, in the afternoon, I was able to get into that overflow line. By the time I got to the Hasbro booth to buy my toys, they no longer had Sith Trooper. They no longer had Boba Fett. So we're already at a point where, this was very frustrating. So, I mean, just the idea of having to go online and compete for these with everybody else was already, obviously that's always very off-putting. This wasn't the first time that this has happened to me. But they have, so this year they had this Hasbro Pulse pre-sale the day before. They went on sale to the general public on Hasbro Pulse.
Oh, yeah.
And
I was there for that, yeah.
You were there for that.
Yeah.
And Boba Fett sold like in 30 seconds or something.
I put 2 in my cart, and when the little spiral thing came around, it was out of stock.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it was 30 seconds. I was real quick. I was real quick.
Yeah.
With it.
I had all of the windows open. I kept refreshing them like 30 minutes before they were supposed to go on sale. They said around 9 a.m. Eastern, around 9. So you don't know exactly when it's going to be, but it was close to 9. It was like, I think it was like 57. It was pretty close. So I had all 3 windows open. I was refreshing. I added them to my cart. When I went to check out, it was like, okay, you have to wait, and it says your place in line is being held, while other people check out or something like that. And by the time I got to the checkout, maybe like a minute, it was probably less than a minute later, Boba Fett had been taken out of my cart.
Yep.
And this was like the one I wanted the most because
Boba Fett.
Well, that, and also these 6-inch figures on the vintage card backs. I've been collecting them since the 40th anniversary line.
Right. Yeah.
So I found that highly frustrating. Luckily, I was able to get the Sith Trooper, and I already had the Destiny set for Luke Skywalker. I got another one that way I could have one to keep carded as well because it looks cool. But yeah, Boba Fett was hugely frustrating. I had actually like purposefully taken the morning off so that I could try and do this, and it was just really frustrating. Really, really, really frustrating. But I thought, okay, there's the general release too, right? So, what am I going to do though? I have to work. So I started talking to friends. They're like, oh, I could try and get it for you. But that was like, well, if I appreciate that, but something's bound to go wrong, right? So I ended up taking the morning off again.
Oh, geez.
Which, thanks Hasbro for lost wages. And,
well, in fairness, you made that decision yourself.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I'm not saying I would have done the same thing, but
yeah, no, I totally, yeah, I understand that. It's just had it been a smoother process either at the convention or at the Pulse pre-sale, that obviously would have not happened at all.
Yeah,
or had to happen.
Yeah. So the day of the general release thing, my office didn't have internet, so I think it's the first time I discovered it was when I saw that. Can I spoil it for people? You got it, right? You got the Boba Fett.
I did get it on the general release day.
Yeah.
Yes, they sold out in less than a minute.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I had it.
I'm super glad you got it because it wasn't super important to me. I was just sort of like, well, I've got this Hasbro Pulse thing. Maybe I can snag it. Maybe not. So when I didn't get it, I was like, all right. But this Hasbro Pulse thing, people pay for this. Right. We had a thing that we wanted to pre-order at the time. The skiff, right? I think was what we pre-ordered at the time, and maybe the skiff guards.
Yeah.
So therefore, because they had that window, it's like, if you pre-order something in this week or this couple of weeks, you get subscribed to this thing for free. Awesome. Sounds good.
Right.
Other people have gone in and they've paid for this. They've paid for this in hopes of being able to get exclusive stuff like this Boba Fett, right? Mm-hmm. And then Hasbro just doesn't make enough of them. Come on, guys. If you're going to be an online retailer, which most of the Star Wars stuff at this point, in my opinion, it's online exclusives. It's Amazon, it's Hasbro Pulse, it's Entertainment Earth.
Right.
That's where you get this stuff now. You ain't getting it at Walmart.
No.
So if they want to do that, they should really, change the way they do things. They should make certain that these things are available for people to buy. It shouldn't just be a bunch of exclusives to San Diego Comic-Con and then 15 seconds of a window on a Friday morning at 9 o'clock in the morning. It's they really should do better.
I mean, not only that, but it's also like anytime they do something vintage, it sells.
Yeah.
I mean, and even the Sith Trooper sold out like within minutes. It looks like the Jedi Destiny set is still there though, like right now.
Well, I mean, those are all going to come out on individual cards, right?
I don't know that that's been confirmed. I think that's been speculated on, and the X-Wing Luke obviously is, but not sure on the others.
Wasn't Yavin Luke one of them?
Oh no, this is Jedi Luke, Stormtrooper Luke, and X-Wing Luke.
Oh gosh. Okay. All right. My bad. I thought Yavin Luke was one of them.
Yeah, no.
All right.
Part of that might be the price point. It's $50 for 3 3/4 inch figures, which is high.
I don't know. I'd say that's a bargain these days.
Yeah. For 3 quality figures like this, absolutely. I don't mind paying that, but
Especially when you're going to have to buy them online anyway with the shipping and handling and taxes added onto it.
yeah, well, yeah. I mean, if you have Pulse, and obviously you don't pay shipping, but
Right.
yeah. In any case, just wanted to vent a
Yeah,
little bit about that because obviously this was a big thing in Star Wars collecting this week, and a lot of people were frustrated. A lot of people didn't get their Boba Fett's or their Sith Troopers, and if it were me, this is what I would like to see. Just going forward, I don't mind these Comic-Con exclusives. That's nothing new. They've always been doing them. They sell out fine. Make them Hasbro Pulse / Comic-Con exclusives. I guess that's technically what they were, but let people that are Pulse members pre-order them.
Yeah.
In advance. That way they can make a sufficient quantity. They know how many they need.
Mm-hmm.
And then, everybody's happy. I mean, you have to wait a little bit longer if you don't go to the show, but at least you're guaranteed getting your collectible.
Yeah. I buy the modern He-Man figures. I'm used to waiting a long time for stuff. I bought the Sail Barge. That was a year.
That was the year, yeah.
Whatever.
I backed the Beasts of the Mesozoic, and that took like over 2 years.
Oh,
but
gosh, but those
when
are
I got them,
gorgeous,
they were
aren't
like, yeah. When I got them, they were like the best dinosaurs I've ever bought, even still. So.
Yeah. I prefer that because then I don't have to worry about it. I hate fighting to try and get the stupid things online now. It's not fun.
Yeah, it's not fun. And I mean, this being a hobby, you kind of expect things like that to. I mean, obviously, there's not everything about collecting is ever going to be 100%. Positive or, it's not always going to be a happy experience. You still have to toy hunt. You still got to search for this stuff, even online. Yep. But, things like this, when you're charging people to use your service and, saying that, you have this perk of being a member. Yeah. You just got to streamline that process a little bit better.
Yeah. You had a 15-second window on a previous day to get it. That was the perk from it. Like, otherwise, I just buy all these things off of Amazon.
Yep.
Yeah. I think a lot of the time the Amazon stuff showed up sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Boba Fett thing was a real screw up. I really think they screwed the pooch on that. I hope they figure out a way to make it right for people.
Yeah, definitely hope so.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm glad you got yours.
Yeah, I'm glad I got mine too. And, ultimately, I guess the story had a happy... Well, so far, if they show up all banged up in an awful condition, it's not going to have a happy ending. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. Because I've actually had pretty good luck when it comes to shipping. I will say that. With Hasbro Pulse, what I tend to do is order one vintage collection figure at a time. That way it's not, banging up against another figure. And they ship them in a box. They put... bubble packets in there, and they do tend to show up in good condition. I will say that.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I've had great shipping luck with them.
Yep.
Better than Amazon, where half the time they're all bent to hell. And
better than Walmart, where they don't have tape on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, hey, Tom, as always, it's been a pleasure having you on the show, and we'll have to connect after Force Friday, see how that goes down, see if there's any surprises that we're unaware of at this point.
Yeah.
And
maybe they'll have a vehicle out there.
Maybe they'll have a vehicle. In the meantime, where can our listeners go to find you on social media?
Oh, you can hunt me up on Twitter at Woozlin Demon. That's about it for old Tom.
Cool. Well, hey, nice talking to you, Tom.
Nice talking to you again. Cheers.
ever wondered what it would be like if you're a toy collector or somebody that's been heavily into any sort of collectibles, what it might be like to put a halt to your hobby? Maybe it's something you've done a long time, maybe it's something you've done for not so long, but to suddenly put all of that energy and harness it into something else, what would that be like? So I have somebody that is not a stranger to the show. He's been on here a couple times before, and he's actually considering doing just that. So Erin from Toy Shelf Review, how are you doing?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. This is kind of a scary topic.
It is. My heart races a little bit hearing you say that, and I'm like, wait, this is my thought in the first place.
Yeah. So you tweeted out something recently that kind of indicated that you were considering doing this, stopping the collecting, maybe moving on, or at least, really thinning out what you already had. So I thought, that sounds like an interesting conversation to have, because that's not really a topic that we've covered before. And obviously you're really huge into the Star Wars collecting. You've been doing it for how long now?
Since '95. So it's 24 years now.
Yeah, just a little bit longer than I have, because I got into it in '96, just after the Power of the Force came back. So yeah, I mean, just the idea of like myself, after having collected slime consecutively since '96 it's kind of scary. But then when I also think about continuing for another, 25 plus years, that's kind of scary too, because it's like, what does that do for my state of mind? And are there any other outlets that I can be putting that energy and that money? And would I even have the room without, significantly thinning, what I have over that amount of time?
Exactly. And that's kind of the point I'm at. Well, not kind of. It is the point. I mean, aside from my room being filled with toys, I just did a count today. I have 34 of those big 50-gallon bins filled up with toys, just mainly in one part of the basement off to the storage. But it started to just, it's a couple by the washer and dryer, out in the middle of the basement in other areas. And then not to mention what doesn't fit in the bins. And that's kind of the point where I'm at is what's feasible here. I'm realized that I'm never going to have a warehouse like Steve Sansweet. So, I'm not going to have a big area to put all this at. And the passion is still there. I enjoy doing the collecting. I enjoy what I have and looking at it and trying to figure out realistically, where do I go from here? Obviously, we have another Force Friday coming in just a couple weeks. That's even more product. Certainly not as much as we had, prequel era, but
yeah,
it seems that we're going to always have more coming. And just trying to figure out what that reality is and living with the balance, because I don't want everything just scattered everywhere, and also to be constantly packed away where I'm not enjoying it. And it's at the point where I'm buying toys, and since I don't have anywhere to put them, it just goes right off to the side. And in a way that seems like such a waste. And, that's sometimes part of collecting. I'm sure many other people do the same thing.
Yeah, no, that's such an interesting point, because, and I go through this frequently. It's like, if you can't see it, if a lot of it is stored away and you can't really enjoy it, it's like, it's kind of almost like it's not even there. And it kind of gets to like, okay, well, what's the point of having so much stuff put away if you're never going to really take a look at it or have it out where you can enjoy it? Like, are there better uses of that space? Exactly.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. So it's, yeah, I mean, I've never wanted myself to have like I never wanted to be Steve Sansweet and have a collection maybe as a kid, but definitely not now. And, I mean, I don't collect like the random things, and I don't think you do either, like the napkins and the paper plates. Yeah. I mean, there's just so much random stuff that has the Star Wars label on it. And I mean, we've pretty much, it seems like, focused like on the toys, since those have come back, a long time ago. And that's kind of been the heart of all of this, because, I grew up having tons of toys and, very blessed, very fortunate. My parents' family, they were always buying us toys, because for a long time, me and my siblings were like the only ones in our family Like our extended family, aunts and uncles, didn't really start having their own children until, like way later. So they all bought toys for us, birthdays, Christmas, just because. And, we had all kinds of toys growing up. And that's something that just never really left me. And when Star Wars Power of the Force, had this really huge presence in stores, that's kind of when I really got into Star Wars. I mean, I had always enjoyed it as a kid. It was kind of a little more peripheral, like compared to things that were going on at the time, like Ninja Turtles, Ghostbusters, all of that stuff. But once I really found like my interest and passion for it, it kind of was like nonstop ever since then. So, I mean, I can't imagine not having that, adoration for Star Wars. But I do wonder about the collecting because, that's just been such a huge part of my life. And it's kind of like, I feel like if I stopped, I feel like if I really, really had to stop collecting, I could do it. I mean, it would be very painful.
Right.
But I feel like if I did do that, I would feel like part of me maybe ceased to exist. So.
Right. It's that passion that still exists, and it's why you've done it. It's probably the same as why I've done it for so long and haven't stopped. So it's very odd to think of the fact that, well, maybe I should skip this Force Friday because I have nowhere to put it anyways. And yet the reality is I'm already seeing these images online of what the figures are that we're going to get. And of course I'm getting all excited for it and thinking, well, maybe I'll get this one. And maybe I should get this one too. And all of a sudden I'm, looking at the possibility of just buying the whole wave that's coming out. And it's like, wait a minute, I thought I was going to scale back.
Right.
So, yeah. And then the other aspect is, if I'm going to keep adding, I certainly need to get rid of something. As I mentioned, I've got 12-inch figures scattered all over my basement because for the last few months, I was thinking about getting rid of those. And I got rid of probably 10 or so 12-inch figures. Because what I did is I took those out of my room because I had all my loose vehicles scattered all over. And because I got a lot of vehicles that I haven't opened yet, I wanted to see those. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was time to rotate things through. And then as I was doing that and realizing I had nowhere now to put the 12-inch figures, it's like, that's kind of what started. It's like, okay, something has to give here. So I thought about the fact that, I'm more focused on the 3 3/4 inch. I've been collecting the Black Series, and that I've actually stopped so far. The last wave, the Chopper, I probably can't skip out on Chopper. I'm going to have to pick him up. But right. that wave I actually have not picked up yet. Because it's just, those are definitely ones where, they end up going off to the side because I have nowhere to put them. Right. So I thought with 12-inch, I was like, well, oddly, I was never going to collect those in the first place. And it wasn't until probably 6 months later when the line launched that I actually started getting them. And of course, I ended up collecting them all. But I was thinking, okay, those I could definitely get rid of. That would create a lot of space and I'd get a lot of my basement back. And here, after thinking about it for a few months, okay, I'm good. I can sell these. I'll be fine. And then, like I said, I even got rid of a few already. About 2 hours before we started this podcast recording, I'm like, well, they look really good. Maybe I shouldn't maybe I'll keep the exclusives. And now I find myself in like, I don't know if I want to get rid of all of these. And oddly, it's not so much. Some of the figures are really cool looking. Granted, it's not the best Wampa, but stuff like the 12-inch Wampa and Luke set and the Tauntauns. Yeah. So I'm like, well, what if I just keep those exclusives and then lose the others? And then start thinking, well, the packaging's really cool though.
Right.
So I'm just back and forth. I gotta do something though.
I hear you. And it's funny you mentioned that because I actually have started thinning my collector series and action collection like over the last couple years. I mean, because those were great at the time, but and you know, in a lot of ways they still are. And I think right now at this point, it's mostly for me, it's like the nostalgia of those figures, more so than it is like the actual figures themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I was a kid at the time. My family, they did put a lot of energy into helping track down some of those because they were hard to find. Some of them were. Chewbacca was like impossible to find for a period of time. Thinking back, and some of the exclusives do look good. Like you said, the Wampa with Luke. I mean, just as a package sample, it looks really cool. Right. And then I think I even have like JCPenney had like that 4-pack of the Hoth characters. So yeah, things like that. Or Greedo even with his like jersey like outfit. It's really like glossy outfit.
Yes, it was.
But yeah, no, Erin, I think part of the problem is that there's just constantly, so much product, and not just from Hasbro anymore. I mean, I'm not sure how far you go into like the Bandai or the Lego or the Hot Toys or anything else, but there's just so many options if you're like collector. I can't even imagine like getting into it this day and age. I don't know where I would start.
Yeah, there's a huge selection for someone who wants to start. Big price range difference also if you're if you do want to get into the Hot Toys and Sideshow and Bandai, and if you want to stay on the more, I'd say, affordable end, there's a wide range that someone could start collecting with. I think for anyone, even as you do get into those larger figures and statues, for everyone, space is gonna eventually become an issue.
Yeah, that's the thing. And especially like we were saying earlier, with toy lines that have run this long. I mean, when I started collecting in 96, I don't know that I ever really thought about how long it would run. I mean, I was, again, I was a kid at the time, so I don't think that really like crossed my mind. I was just like, okay, well, I'm going to collect them, and oh, this is coming out, Lax Sivrak. Oh, all these like peripheral characters are starting to make their way into the line. It's like, oh, well, this can actually keep going for a long time.
Yeah, and it might have been silly to think, but at the time, when these figures were coming out, there was the talk of the new prequel trilogy coming.
Yes. And
it might have been silly to think this, but at the time I really thought that, okay, so 3 more movies, and maybe it goes a year or 2 afterwards, and then the figures will probably stop. And, of course, Revenge of the Sith hit, and not much later we realized it wasn't going to stop. There was the Clone Wars cartoon. It was just right. It was relentless. And, I got to say that when the sequel trilogy was announced, I was kind of like, man, this is never going to end. What am I going to do?
Yeah, it was the opposite, wasn't it? Like they ramped up.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, I know, we constantly hear about how toys aren't selling as well as they used to, and how companies like Hasbro are scaling back. And I mean, to an extent, it's true. Even if you look at like the 5 POA 3 3/4 inch, it doesn't look like they're doing any for episode 9. So, I mean, it kind of makes you wonder, like, well, could, like, at this point in time, could it feasibly end at some point? Like, what if, vintage collection was put to rest? Would it just be Black Series? Would that be the death of 3 3/4 inch? Would Black Series ever end? So, I mean, I guess this... Mm-hmm.
I've got to say, I mean, that's kind of my other holdup of, do I really want to stop now? Because I think most collectors are already aware that Hasbro so far has not extended their license agreement yet beyond 2020. Mm-hmm. And they're going to start focusing, I shouldn't say focusing, but they're going to have the new scale, the 5-inch figures for Galaxy of Adventures, if I'm remembering that right.
Yes.
And yeah, there's a little less focus on the 3 3/4 inch line, and part of me is like, what if this really does end in a year or 2? It's like, do I want to stop now when it's almost done? Like, I've gone this far. Maybe I want to just wait and see, but who knows how much longer it will go on. But yeah, the line as far as the 3 3/4 inch certainly isn't what it used to be.
Yeah, and I know a lot of collectors have struggled with that because, some of them just never got into 6-inch, and, they've always, they grew up with 3 3/4 inch, and, that was obviously like the scale that was popularized by Star Wars Kenner figures back in the 70s. And it kind of branched out into, a bunch of other toy lines. And but today that's not really the case. Like Star Wars is kind of the exception rather than the rule.
True. You look on the store shelves, and it's a lot of 6-inch figures for various other lines. And Jurassic, you'd know this better than me, but I think Jurassic Park does still have a smaller scale line, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they do have a 3 3/4 inch line.
And aside from that in Star Wars, I am kind of struggling to think of any other line that might offer that scale of figures.
I can't think of any other than like, sometimes you see like the Lanyard figures at Walmart, or, just kind of like the more like smaller toy company, the budget figures that you see like at, Target. I think I've seen like these little like toy soldiers that look kind of generic, or, army men basically with guns
Gotcha.
and stuff.
So it makes you wonder how long Hasbro would be willing to cater to a collector audience that is maybe shrinking.
Right. It definitely is, because, I mean, you think anybody that's been with the line since the 70s, I mean, that's a long time. And, sadly, we don't live forever. And, people do end up having children, and, or, their interests, go other ways. Things change financially in their lives. So they do give up, collecting. They do give up their collections, for various reasons. And, we've seen that before. Sometimes you'll see like big dumps of, collections on eBay, or you'll hear about people that, they just lost their interest, or, they just couldn't, sustain what they were doing. So, yeah, I mean, it definitely happens. And I think that, they're definitely trying to, capture kids. And I don't know if that's what their goal is with this new 5-inch scale, but, I think that it seems like Hasbro sort of acknowledged that, they always used to say, oh, kids, we focus the most on kids because, they're our biggest customers. And maybe to a degree that's still true, but I think they've also realized in recent years that, it's the collectors that have really helped sustain the longevity of the Star Wars toy line. And, we buy things like the sail barge, like the vintage collection, stuff that you can only get online, even like the place that's like the recent Jabba's Palace playset and the retro collection. And I mean, I don't see, or I haven't heard of kids really getting into any of that. And I think it's largely because there's not really a retail presence for those items. I mean,
kids aren't surfing online looking for toys. They're going to wander the toy aisles. And it seems like for the majority of the year, maybe it's different for your area, but here, just nothing new really hits the shelves. Occasionally the Black Series, you might see a wave or two make it a couple times, but the 3 3/4 inch, the vintage collection, I haven't seen beyond wave 2 on a store shelf, and I only saw the second wave at 2 different Walmarts. So twice.
Yeah.
And I don't
feel
know
like,
how are kids going to find that?
right. And, I kind of feel like that's, from what I've seen, like online, social media and whatnot, that's kind of the case everywhere in the U.S. Like a Target here kind of looks like a Target in Pennsylvania, or Seattle, or anywhere really. It's no, there hasn't been anything new. And like you say, yeah, the Black Series, occasionally you will go into the store and you'll see like the remnants of like the Holdo wave, or the Ezra wave, or whatever. But then those will be gone after a couple of days, and then you'll still be left with the same figures from 2 years ago.
Right.
And vintage collection's even worse, because I think the most recent wave I saw was wave 3, and I think that was the Cassian wave and the Jedi Master Luke wave. And I think I saw that at Walmart just once, and that was like a year ago at this point. And I never saw those at retail again. They certainly haven't gotten anything from 2019. And yeah, I mean, if you're collecting this line, then the only way to do it is really to buy online.
And I got to say that it takes a lot of fun out of it. And one of the things that for me was an enjoyable part of this was always, it's the thrill of the hunt. And many people have said that, but it's true. It's is today the day? Am I going to find something? I'd go on my toy runs. They used to be daily. I'd wake up, I'd say early, but 9:30 is early for me.
Right.
But I'd get up and I would hit 5 or 6 or 7 stores. Sure, I might come back empty-handed, but good amount of those runs, I'm eating something.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where those toy runs it was ridiculous to go on. It was a waste of gas because you could go a few weeks and never find anything. And in fact, that you'd start to see the pattern in the toy aisle of the toys that never moved. And, it would always annoy me. I'd go for a few weeks and see a figure not on its peg. It would just be sitting on top of, other boxed items or something. I think to myself, is there anyone clean the toy aisle? Why is the figure still sitting there after all this time?
Yeah.
So, that aspect of it is, as far as that of the collecting, I think from most people too, is probably gone at this point, since you're basically just going online, you make your pre-order, and then in a couple months it's going to show up at your doorstep. And
Right.
that's kind of boring.
Yeah, it is. And I think, we grew up in a time where, there wasn't a thing, like online shopping, and, you had to go to the store if you needed something. So, with toys, like, the only place you could get them was in stores up until, like, I think we talked about this earlier this year, but like Power of the Force, when, they started doing those very first online items through the fan club.
Mm-hmm.
And you did have to go online to buy some of those. But I mean, other than that, like, just to find regular stuff that's part of, non-exclusive stuff, you had to go to stores to get that stuff.
Right.
And, I mean, the toy hunt was just the reality at the time. Like, you had to drive around to places, or you had to have, in my case, if you're a kid, you had to have like a parent take you to, these stores to look for stuff. Yeah, so I mean, I wonder if you're like a new collector, maybe you're like a 12-year-old today, or you're like an 18-year-old today, and you're just getting into collecting. Like, I wonder if that any of that's important to you, or if you kind of just go online and you accept that as the reality.
They probably just accept it as the reality, and I'm sure they're just thinking I'm just an old person in many ways.
Yeah. There's definitely no point, it seems like, in doing those long toy runs anymore. I mean, I do them occasionally, like if I know that there's something that's recently out and that I stand, a decent chance of finding it. But not so much with Star Wars anymore. That's more like with the Jurassic World, and, because obviously, I do collect other things beyond Star Wars, and I think that adds a whole other element to what we're talking about here.
Yeah, you've got a couple lines going.
Yeah, I mean, there's the Jurassic, which is it's become a huge thing. It just, Mattel has not like reined it in at all. They're just, it's kind of like where Star Wars was in 2008. They're just kind of, the line's exploding. There's all kinds of stuff right now. And then, I do have like the DC. I have some of the Marvel Legends. I have some of the Kenner stuff that I had, from childhood, and, some of the Hot Toys, and then, random things like NECA, and, just looking around the room, there's all kinds of stuff. So, but Star Wars has always been like my primary, number one focus, and I can't see that ever changing unless, like you say, Hasbro doesn't renew the license and things go elsewhere, and then you kind of have to start over with another company, which I know it's easy to say. I would not start over with, if let's say Disney started manufacturing their own 3 3/4-inch figures in a couple years. I mean, I don't feel like I would collect those, but it's always easier said than done, because what if they're awesome.
Exactly. And I feel exactly the same way, but there's times where I think, oh, please, Hasbro, just maybe it's time to stop so I can stop. And then of course there would be another company to pick it up, and I for the last few years would say, no, I wouldn't start up if say Mattel or maybe Disney. It certainly seems like they could probably start their own line if they wanted to, but I have at this point no desire to start rebuying all these figures just from another company. And you're right. Yeah. Maybe they might come out and say, you know what, everyone's been wanting that Death Star playset. Guess what? We're giving it to you. And then I'd just be like, oh man, okay.
Yeah. I think the other thing you have to think about is the breadth of this Star Wars toy line. I mean, yeah, you have your basic figures, and they're probably in the, what would you say, in the thousands?
It has to be, because in Power of the Jedi was the Boba Fett 300 figure. And I know that counts the original the true vintage releases of figures, which I think were in the 80s or 90s, 92 figures, I think. And then what was it? We had the Darth Vader 500th figure that might have been it was in a black package. Might have been around.
Oh, the 500th.
Might have been around original trilogy collection.
Yes.
So I feel like we've got to be easily, I don't know, 1,500 figures, just considering the amount of time that has gone by.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least. So, I mean, okay, so let's say 1,500 figures. Let's say that, you're like us, where, or, primarily you, because I only do this with vintage collection, but like, you buy like one to open and one to keep packaged, right?
Yes.
So, okay, so let's say 3,000 figures, just, as a rough estimate. And then, there's also, like you said, the 12-inch, there's the 6-inch, there's, I mean, if we just focus on the 3 3/4-inch line, you have vehicles, you have play sets, you have the mini rigs, you have all sorts of things. So, you're talking like, 25 years of nonstop toys of all these things. And it's just like, it's hard to, I mean, it's really immense is what I think it comes down to. It's, we're not talking about just collecting, 100 figures or, something like Black Series, or, you could probably do it pretty easily if, you just wanted to collect Star Wars toys. We're talking about, 25 years of, just a sheer amount of volume in terms of Star Wars toys.
Yeah, it's been a lot.
It has been a lot. And yeah, I mean, it's like I said at the beginning of this segment, it is scary to think about, like, could I just give this up? Something that's been part of my life for so long and, so dear to me, and something that's, really helped fuel my passion for Star Wars, because I love the films. Obviously the films is kind of like where I think, it starts at, but I mean, I feel like I like the films even more because of the toys.
Yes, indeed. I think it's that inner child, the imagination. You can look at a figure or at least in my case, you can look at some of these figures and you kind of see the scene in your head again. A lot of it, since I keep a carded collection, is also just maybe it's a stretch to call it the art of it, but I like seeing the packaging, the way something came out. That's why for me, like the 3 3/4-inch Black Series line is my least favorite, because it was just a figure on a black background. But then also, now having this for so long, oddly, I can remember picking up a lot of these, from whether they were midnight openings or, it's kind of a weird way to remember, but I have a stepbrother who I grew up not knowing. Family things happen and whatnot. And the day that I talked to him for the first time, aside from when I was like, not that I talked, but I was like 6 months old or something, or a year. So that was the last time I'd seen him. But the day I talked to him was the exact same day I found at Walmart the episode 2 sneak preview figures.
Oh.
So it's weird to have, and obviously I don't remember that day just because of the figures, but it's the way of saying that, some of these figures I do remember finding, say, a set of 12-inch figures at a Target in a particular city. Like, you just kind of have those memories associated with just picking up these carded figures.
Yeah, it's so weird because that's totally how it is. Like we've gone way beyond like just collecting and enjoying it for that, but we've also come to collect it after all this time for the memories and the nostalgia of, what was going on in our lives when the Power of the Jedi line came out, or finding certain pieces. Like, I was thinking the other day about, very random, the ASP7 droid from the Power of the Force. Like, I kind of remember like the day I got that.
Yeah.
It's just like, you remember a lot of things. Like when you purchase something, I don't know, I just kind of I feel like that kind of solidifies whatever was going on around you, and you've had it after all this time. And I mean, I don't remember like every single instance for every figure that I have, but there's a lot of them where I definitely do remember. And I was talking earlier about, thinning the Action Collection and Collector series. And I think about a year and a half ago, I sold the Walmart had, as you'll recall, these exclusive Cantina band members.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think they were like $20 a figure, and each one, but they were each identical, but you had to buy all 6 to get all the instruments. And I recently was able to, it was a tough decision, because I remember, like, at the time, the only way that as a kid I was able to pay for them was to put them on layaway at Walmart. And, just made payments on them over time. And then I remember the day, this is the last payment, I'm bringing them home. And, I appreciate that sentiment. It's like I remember doing that. I was a kid. I had to work, even as a kid to make enough money to get these. And here I am, 20 plus years later, putting them on eBay. And you feel like a little part of you, like, goes away with those figures once you do, like, ship them off. So
yeah, and that's kind of why I started backing off from thinking of maybe selling the carded figures, because as I was sitting in my room and kind of thinking, okay, where am I going to start with this? And it was kind of that moment of, well, I could grab these. Well, no, I really like those. And then I start, those memories associated with the time. And it's like, well, I don't want to, maybe I don't want to sell these, because in looking at these figures sometimes, the ones you remember purchasing, such as you're talking about, it's like, even just looking at that in a way is like similar to looking at a photo album. Mm-hmm. Because you're already, you can look at this carded figure or something and you remember purchasing it, and those other memories associated with it just kind of come back. And
right.
So you feel like you're not just, maybe this is being a little dramatic, but it's like you're not only selling a toy, but yeah, you're getting rid of some of your memory or something.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I know, like, if I talk to, like, somebody that didn't collect, like my husband, or a friend or something that never got into collecting, never really understood what any of it was about, and express this, I don't think that that's something they would even ever consider. They would just be like, oh, well, it's taking up too much room, sell it.
Exactly.
They don't really have, like, that perspective of having, those memories that are so old, and what work it went into, like, acquiring certain pieces. Because it's not like it's never been that you could just go to the store and find something in most cases. You've always had to hunt for stuff.
Right.
It's not just, that you have the stuff. It's like, all the energy that you put into acquiring it, all the money you invested into acquiring it. And I think that's lost on a lot of people, especially those that are non-collectors.
Yeah, I think you definitely have to have an understanding of someone who at least would have a passion of something. Maybe they don't collect toys, but I think most people have a passion for something. Uh-huh. And then it's just getting them to relate to that, because, I mean, certainly someone can come into someone's room of toys and just look at it and say, this is, you okay here? Maybe it's time to get rid of some stuff.
Right. Yeah. And I always say, I mean, people seem to be sometimes quick to judge collectors, like, why would you put all this money in, you're an adult, why would you buy all these toys? But I mean, at the same time, people like that might be putting the same amount of money into, like, handbags, or into gambling, or into, all sorts of stuff. So, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. It's just like, where do you put your time and energy, and what's your hobby? Where do you put that energy and resources into? And for, a lot of us, part of it is putting it into toys and collectibles, because that's just what we've always done. And I feel like when we think about selling off the collection, it just feels like, would there be emptiness in our lives by not doing it, by letting go of a lot of these things? Like, I feel like you don't really know until you've done something. So, you do wonder, like, if I sold half of what I have now, even, like, I'd have a lot more room to display stuff, but would there be an emptiness? And if I sold it all, like, there probably definitely would be an emptiness at that point.
Right. What would you do with your time?
Yeah. So it's really a tough thing. I mean, I feel like on some level, I would never be able to let everything go personally.
No, I couldn't.
Yeah, and the thing is that I also think, and hopefully this is far off into the future, and it's not something I really need to worry about anytime soon. But I do think occasionally, like, okay, well, what if the time comes where I'm old and I'm I'm dead or something, and I leave like thousands of collectible pieces behind, like whoever like runs into that situation where they have to deal with that, or they're not going to know anything about any of it.
No, they're not. And
they're not gonna...
I dread the day, and that was kind of some of the driving force in when I started thinking about getting rid of a lot of stuff. Is a lot of us would have family who's starting to get older, and you realize that they've had to live smaller, and it's like I dread my kids having to deal with this. Like, the day comes that I'm gone, and they're I don't know. I mean, in thinking of selling stuff off, I was like, as I was telling you earlier, like, I have to go to eBay or something, or start buying boxes and deal with shipping this all off. I think they would just throw it all away.
Give it to Goodwill or something.
Right, yeah. Hopefully they would do that instead of just tossing it all. But I really do feel for my kids when that day comes, because I don't know how they would,
Yeah, I've thought about this. I've thought about this before, and I kind of feel like the only way you would be able to really do it is if maybe you created like a detailed spreadsheet with pictures, and maybe like you updated it with like the value of stuff every now and then. But I mean, even that, can you imagine how daunting that would be to catalog thousands of toys?
Yeah, my advice to anyone is, if you're going to start a collection, start cataloging right away.
Yeah.
That is something that I did. So I have a spreadsheet of my entire collection.
Nice.
That I don't know why I started, but I did. It certainly has come in handy over the years as you try to remember.
Do I have that?
Right. Because for a while, when we, prior to my wife and I getting married, we, obviously you live separately, and then you get married, you get a house together, you have to move. And for a few months, the majority of my collection was in bins, out of necessity, because you're moving and stuff. And I had totally lost track. Without my list, I would have lost track of what I needed. And because definitely if I didn't keep up on it, I noticed I was buying figures that I thought I needed. And then as we were unpacking, I was like, oh, I guess I did have this figure already. And so, yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't have anything with values and stuff. That's too much work. I wouldn't go back and try to do that. I don't know if they still have it. Years ago on Rebel Scum, they had a wedge collection engine, something like that. You could enter your items in there, and it had a value associated with it. And I don't know if I stopped doing that years ago, but that was something they had.
Yeah, I kind of stopped paying attention to all that once, like, publications like Toy Fair died off. No, that's awesome that you have that. I mean, that's totally a very valuable tool, and organizing your collection, and just kind of figuring out what you have. But like, if you don't have that, or maybe you do and somebody's not aware, like, that you made a spreadsheet about it, it's like, what do they do with your stuff? I can imagine it's an incredibly daunting thing to have to sort through everything, because you're not going to know, like, I mean, maybe you're not even a Star Wars fan, so you don't even know like what Darth Vader is, or, well, I mean, you have to on some level, I would think, but you know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't know, like, oh, Ezra Bridger, who's that? Or, just random characters.
Someone who's not familiar with the hobby of the movies, or you might have something in your collection. I know everyone says that, you're going to find that one that's worth $1 million, but, and that's certainly not going to be the case, I think, with any of the modern line. But you're going to get some items that are worth a few bucks, and someone not familiar with it wouldn't know. That's the way someone finds things at a yard sale for $5, and then they get to come back and brag about how they found a $200 item for $5 because someone didn't know what they were selling.
Yeah. I mean, I think if I was getting to that point that I was speaking of, in which, I was just, getting older, and I thought, okay, I don't want somebody to have to deal with this someday. I mean, I can certainly see myself downsizing significantly, but I can't see myself quitting, like, having a collection altogether. Like, I think I would keep, like, like the Hot Toys, or the figures that maybe meant the most, or were the best overall, like the definitive versions of certain characters. But I don't know. I don't think I could get rid of all of it. I mean, there's a lot of really big pieces, like the vehicles, like the AT-AT, or the Millennium Falcon, the Imperial Shuttle, or just like these big, the barge.
Yeah, the barge is staying with me. I don't care who I annoy.
Yeah, that was too much of a thing to let go of at this point, ever probably. But yeah, no, it's, and then, I have shells of dinosaurs too. So it's like, most people aren't going to come in and know, oh, that's a Dimetrodon, that's a Monolophosaurus, they're just going to, oh, they're dinosaurs, Yep. So it's like, yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I think I would still have a collection. I think all the way until the end, really. There would just be things that I would have, but I don't think that it would be, maybe it's like 10% of what it is now, and maybe, I feel like life is all about balance, right? Like compromising, and, maybe at a certain point you do realize that, we have to keep, in order to keep going, we have to really, downsize what we have. And I feel like as long as I could have some really key pieces in my collection that mean a lot, that, maybe, even things that were a little more expensive, like the barge, or, the key characters from the films or whatever, or even like the dioramas, like the Cantina diorama, things like that. I can't see ever letting, things like that just totally go.
Right.
I think maybe I would be content, even if it wasn't ideal to not have, the bulk of my collection. Maybe, I think maybe I would still be content to have like those really meaningful pieces still in my collection.
Yep. I think that's the collector part, that will always remain in, people who do collect, is that it's, as you said earlier, it's kind of part of who you are. So it's what you enjoy, I mean, it's like, older people with their little Hummel figurines. I'm just gonna have 3 3/4 inch figures.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So what do you think, Erin? Are you gonna do it?
I think I definitely need to scale back, at least for a while. And like I said to you earlier, that's kind of an easy thing to say now, because nothing's hitting the store shelves for a few weeks.
Right.
So I don't know. And I was even talking to my wife earlier, where I was so set on selling the 12-inch figures, and I had my mind set on it for a few months, and now all of a sudden I'm like, I don't know. But I do know I've got to do something to thin things out. How that will look, I don't know. I mean, I have probably like a dozen of the Sideshow 12-inch figures that they did with the they were kind of sublines: Order of the Jedi, Rebellion, Heroes and so I'm not making any sense here.
Heroes and Villains.
Yes, thank you. Heroes and Villains. And so, they had a run of those, and after a while I gave up, because they were like $60 to $80 a piece. So I kind of gave up on those, but I know that fills a bin, so I might let those go, because I haven't, since I bought them, they've been in a bin. So really no attachment to those. And then I know I've got another bin filled with, I think they were 10-inch. It was the Saga line, I think, that was exclusive to Suncoast or Sam Goody. They're little 10-inch figures.
Oh, yes.
So I know I've got those in a bin. So, like maybe I can knock out stuff like that. I know I've got a ton of lightsabers, the role-playing stuff. Maybe things like that. So I might pick away at some of those kind of smaller items and go from there. But we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And
it's easy to say, all talk, you know.
But then when you actually sit down and start going through things, it's like, I can't let this go.
Right.
I kind of feel like maybe an approach that maybe is easier to take as, you get towards maybe what's the end of your collecting journey is maybe each time you buy a piece, you think to yourself, is this something I can see myself having to the end? And if it is, then great, we buy it. If not, then maybe we don't buy it.
Right.
I don't know if that would be the right mindset to have, but I think if you're really trying to scale back what you collect, I mean, maybe having that mindset would be helpful.
Yeah, I think being a little more methodical in what I purchase. I mean, it sounds like, well, duh, you don't have to buy everything, and I know that. But as part of a collector, someone who's always wanted to have, everything that was out there, like really I don't have the excitement in the vintage collection, the reissues that they've been doing with the face painting. Mm-hmm. I just bought a wave of those figures that came out not long ago, the Hoth Han, the Jedi Luke. And it's like, boy, when I thought about it, that was $100 for the case. And I own these figures already. It's just painted differently. So I was like, maybe those types of things, definitely I don't need to buy anymore. That would save some space, obviously save money. And really, aside from the paint job, I own the figure already.
Right.
Yeah. It's not even numbered differently.
It's not. And that's totally true. And, and I ran into this too, because I mean, I've never really been like a package collector. I kind of was when I started, like as a kid, like, like buying, the 12-inch have always stayed in the boxes, like the Action Collection, Collector Series, all that.
That was the same for me.
Yeah. But like the 3 3/4-inch stuff, I've always really opened that. But then with Vintage Collection, that's kind of been the exception, because I do enjoy putting those up on the wall and, seeing them. Like, I feel like at this point for me, like Vintage Collection is just like, they're like little art pieces. Like, even like the characters that weren't around in the vintage days, like, the sequel trilogy figures, for example. Because you have a really nice little figure, and then you have like a really, like gorgeous looking classic card back. So, I like putting those on the wall because I feel like, they're kind of like art. But I ran into it too because, like we were saying earlier, like you can't get most of these things in stores, so you have to order online. And I'll use the figure I received today as an example. I got in my, I bought it. This is the second one I've bought, but it was a Vintage Collection Lando Calrissian from Solo. And I was hoping, okay, well, the one that I got before had a pretty beat up card back, so let me try getting another one from from Hasbro Pulse, and seeing if it comes in any better. And I mean, it still kind of was messed up. So, but it's like, what choice do you have? I mean, you can't buy them in stores, so you kind of have to rely on stores like online like that to acquire a lot of the stuff.
And I skipped out on trying to get the Hasbro orders the other day for the Boba Fett and the Luke 3-pack and the Sith Trooper. I just didn't bother because I think, as you're aware, that they sell out in seconds, it seems. And all my heart aches for the people who receive those figures and they're just shoved into the boxes and crushed.
Yeah. I'm really nervous, Erin, because mine are supposed to be coming in tomorrow.
Oh, good luck to you.
Yeah, it's like, like after all that, and in our other segment that I think will be as part of this episode, I was talking to Tom Chorlton, who he collects a lot too, and he comes onto the show, and we talk about toys, but I was telling him the same exact thing, like expressing how frustrating that whole process was, and taking time off from work to go online to try and get these, and not being completely successful and missing out on some of them, and having to take more time off to try and get the ones I missed, the Boba Fett's, the next day, which luckily I was able to get. But
that's good. Like
you said, gone in seconds, very frustrating, and people are getting them in beat up conditions. So definitely not a good experience. And I think it's little things like that, honestly, that kind of put you off to collecting.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't help because you're especially with the exclusives, but most of the line now you might as well call it an online exclusive, that you have to really hope or trust the company that you're dealing with. And there's some really good ones out there that try to get you something in good condition. And I know shipping accidents, happen and such. But it's really disheartening when it comes from, you're purchasing from Hasbro, who knows it's the collectors that are, buying these things that they've wanted in the packaging. And so often, if you're lucky enough to get the purchase made in the first place, then your next, nail biter is, are you going to actually receive it in good condition, or are they just going to put it in a box that's too small for the figure?
Yeah. Yeah. And, as we were saying, that's just the reality of these days of, being a collector. You have to utilize the online resources. Otherwise, you're just never going to get stuff. And that is a real fear we live with constantly. Is how's my toy going to come in?
Yeah.
Will it be out in the sun until, I get home if it arrives early or something, probably it's fine. It's just, we worry about and dwell on these things. And
right. Is it going to rain?
Right.
My case, is it going to snow?
Yeah. And, I think what it comes down to is, it's not easy being a toy collector. And I think we've demonstrated quite well that selling your collection isn't an easy task, and is definitely not an easy thing to even think about, contemplate. But, it goes way beyond just, being a toy collector. Because, you do have the nostalgia, you have the memories, you have, all the time and energy and money that you've invested into, this hobby. And, all the news, just think of all the time that we go online and we look for news. For me, it's that's basically every day. I'll spend some time to go online and, read up on the websites and see, was anything announced? Was anything leaked? Are people finding anything new? Is there anything in my area? And, it's just something that we invest so much time and energy into. And, it's part of our identity, being a collector. It's definitely part of who we are. And, it's always been the case, for us. So, when we think about and talk about things like, getting rid of, a lot of what we have or thinning out, it's certainly not an easy task.
No. No, but it's that passion that drives all of it. Beyond the toys, for yourself, you've multiple podcasts, YouTube channel, and a lot of it comes from the fact that, maybe if you didn't collect toys, maybe you didn't start the YouTube channel or the podcast to talk about such things, because you want to share the same passion you have with others. It's the same reason why I did my channel. And, even if I totally stopped collecting and still left myself with figures, I'd still keep doing that. I'd still keep doing my channel. Right. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at, is just trying to figure out how much more can fit, how much room do I need to make, and when is the best time to stop collecting?
Yeah, the age-old questions that'll live on with forever beyond us.
Right. Luckily for me, my wife tolerates it very well, and has even told me there's things that she doesn't want me to get rid of. So, nice. Luckily for me, I'm not in that position where I have a wife that hates what I collect, and so there's no pressure on that end.
No, that's good. That's a really important part of it too. And I would say the same of my husband. He doesn't understand collecting or really see a whole lot of what I get out of it, but he appreciates that it makes me happy, and he tolerates it very well. So, but yeah, he does walk into my collecting room sometimes and be like, okay, you got to do something about some of these toys you got here. But yeah, and I think like I said earlier, I think it's all about balance. I think, getting to that point where you feel like, okay, there are some things that maybe I can let go of. Maybe, like in my case, like we said, I collect other things. Do I need to collect DC? No, maybe I can stop collecting those and, get rid of that and, just have Star Wars and have some Jurassic Park or whatever. But, there's not really a right or a wrong way to go about any of this. And it's all very personal to each of us and our experiences. And, we haven't been collecting for, 2 or 3 years, where you can say, oh, I did, that was fun for 3 years, I'm going to move on. This is a lifelong thing for us. And there's so many, aspects that we have to think about when, we even ponder the possibility of, getting rid of our parts of our collection. So, Erin, it's been a blast talking about all of this. Keep us posted. I'm really curious to see, how far you do thin the collection, and, if you ultimately stop or keep going. Because, we're kind of, this is for us, this is really kind of uncharted territory. I'd be really curious to see, what direction things going for you.
Yeah, I'll keep you updated. Definitely going to take my time, I think, and figure it out. When I sent the tweet, I was in the midst of doing some projects in the house and just was so surrounded by toys. It was just like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And, it's like I said, I'd already been thinking for months of what I need to thin out because the room is gone. The space is gone. So, yeah. Right. But I'm definitely going to take my time, think about what I really need, what I really don't need. And no matter what, still a fan of toys, the Star Wars toys. And, certainly the passion is there. It's just determining the reality of where to put things.
Right. And that's a really good point too. There's the, the love for the franchise and for the toys and collecting. And then there's also the reality of it, like how feasible is it to have all this stuff, or, where's it going to go down the road? Do I need to keep, a lot of what I have, especially when it's in the closet or it's in storage or, wherever, and I can't see it. And I think that's been the primary driving force for me when I do think about thinning out the collection is like, okay, if I can't see, half of it because it's in storage, then, what's really the point?
Right.
So, this is an ongoing thing that we'll think about. I think even if you're not at a point where you're really thinking about letting go of parts of your collection, it is something you're going to run into at some point. So I think we're all going to have to deal with it. Any parting thoughts before we sign off here?
Well, I'll just say, hopefully this wasn't too depressing for everyone out there to hear. So, definitely just if you enjoy collecting, keep collecting, do what you enjoy. And, obviously at some point you're going to have to figure out where to put things and what you need to part with. I think that's just the reality of any collection. Certainly, it looks like Star Wars is going to go on forever. So,
right.
Just know that you might have to end before the toys do.
Yeah. What a morbid way for us to end the show.
I know, it does. It does seem so depressing. Some of this just might be my age. I'm mid-40s now, and it's like, those farther numbers are starting to look a lot bigger than they used to.
Yeah. No, I hear you too. I don't like having birthdays anymore myself.
I stopped counting.
How old are you? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, Erin, as always, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming on and talking about, your thoughts of letting go parts of the collection. And again, let's catch up another time and see where things go.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Where can our listeners go to look you up online?
I am at Toy Shelf Review on Twitter and Instagram and on YouTube.
Very cool. So I will throw links in our show notes so that our friends that I'm sure most everybody's, knows where you're at and stuff.
Yeah.
But for those that might not, we'll definitely put those in there. That way our listeners can go on and, see where this journey takes you.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye, Erin.
Bye.
If you've made it all the way to the very end of this episode, then thank you for listening. I know we had a lot of ground to cover this time around. Selling your collection, it's not the most fun topic, even if it's hypothetical. I think we all know that in some way, shape, or form, we're going to have to confront that reality at some point, whether it's downsizing, whether it's selling the entire thing off, or whether it's just parting with a few pieces in order to make room for new stuff. It really is worth discussing, and since I recorded with Erin, I also suggested to him the idea of maybe just keeping one carded sample from each Star Wars collection, like Power of the Force, Episode 1, Power of the Jedi, and so forth and so on, just to have like an example of what each toy line's packaging aesthetic looked like, what that line look was like. And then maybe for something like the Vintage Collection, which is obviously like the greatest like Star Wars modern collection, just keep all of the Vintage Collection because those look amazing on display. I think it makes sense, and Erin seemed to have been thinking the same thing actually, so time will tell what happens. So thanks again to him for coming on to the show and discussing that subject. And also, of course, thanks to Tom Chorlton and to Jurassic Dave 93. Be sure to check all of them out on social media. I will throw links in the show notes to all of them. That way you can look them up if you're not familiar with them already. They all do great work, and it's always a joy to talk Star Wars with each and every one of them. Now, Force Friday is coming up very soon. I want to hear from you guys. Let me know what your Force Friday was like. You can send a brief, about 1 to 2 minute MP3. Email that over to victoriascantina@yahoo.com, and I will include as many as I can in the next podcast episode. So I hope everybody has a great Force Friday. I'm really looking forward to hearing your story and getting to know a little bit about what it was like. Hopefully it's a better experience than it's been in recent years, because they really haven't been all that great. Not like what the prequel era was like. So I hope it goes well. I hope you get everything you want, get everything you need. And if you can't, I hope you're able to pre-order the rest of it online. And again, be sure to send me your audio so that I can know what it was like for you. If you aren't already, subscribe to the place it all started, the Victoria's Cantina YouTube channel, where I review new toys and showcase retro toys from the past. You can also follow us for news and updates on Facebook by looking up Victoria's Cantina, toy photography on Instagram @Victoria's Cantina, and a constant drip of toy-related and other random and nonsensical tweets on Twitter @Vic's Cantina. If you're so inclined, we are on Patreon. Gain greater access to Victoria's Cantina by becoming a Patreon Cantina patron. For as little as $1 a month, you'll help to keep the show going and also get exclusive content such as access to a private Twitter feed, early access to toy reviews, and behind-the-scenes featurettes. And if you can't, but you still want to help us out, one of the easiest and most helpful things you can do is leave us a review over on Apple Podcasts. It only takes a minute, so hit that 5-star rating and leave a note stating why you enjoy the show. It'll make us more visible on iTunes and help others to find our show. As always, I'm Victoria, and no matter where you're listening out in the galaxy, I'd like to thank you for tuning in to the Cantina Chatter podcast.